Welcome to the very first trial episode of Magical Internet Money. As it's a podcast where we talk about magical internet money and everything else. Maybe. We'll see. Joining me is my co-host. How do you want to be introduced, man?
I don't know. Maybe Farmer?
I'll go with Farmer. Yeah, so Farmer is a CT degen, is what I'd say. Chart specialist and long-time crypto user. Why don't you give yourself your own introduction? Because you are a mysterious man.
Yeah, good question. So I guess professionally, I'm the CEO of the validator company, a DeFi Dojo validator. And so we started that a couple years ago. That's been amazing. Learned so much. I'm into all kinds of stuff. I feel like I'm just like you, like from the beginning, super interested in everything crypto. Probably we both got in around the same time, 2017, 2018. Got into it and just started learning. You know nothing when you start. You start following people on CT and you think they're really cool, and then they end up being wrong, and then you find someone else. And so like it just takes a long time to like kind of follow the alpha and figure out like who's full of shit, who's not. And so went on that process, got into like XRP initially because my buddy who got me into crypto was like, oh, dude, this is, the future, 589. Moved away from that quickly and got a little bit of ETH around like $100 in 2018 and started playing with like Cardano and BNB and like, just went down the rabbit hole. And then got into DeFi when that started, played with DeFi on all the chains, Phantom, Spooky Swap, printer tokens, just all the way down the degen rabbit holes that were available to us at the time. And then, since we met, I've been doing like a lot more education and content stuff in the DeFi Dojo. My buddy and I have a show in there once a week called IBC Everywhere. Although I'm still like touching everything and investing in several things, I'm still very much focused on like Cosmos SDK chains and being a validator, participating in governance and those types of things.
We should dive into Cosmos and like a little bit, because I am, maybe like not a perma-bear on Cosmos.
I think perma-bear is fair.
I think, perma-bear is probably fair. And you're a perma-bull on Cosmos and IBC, or at least like to some extent. And I've seen differentiation between, there's IBC and there's Cosmos. And people have really been pushing this differentiation lately, because I think people are like, we need to disassociate from Cosmos and help people understand that IBC tech is going to be everywhere and really going to be a thing. And I think that narrative is probably pretty true. But before we look at that, let's do what our bread and butter is, which is like yields, and for you, a bit of the market. So I'm gonna pop up the market. I think we're feeling kind of good today, though. We'll look at this in a second. So like, Bitcoin is up. We like this. It's I don't know anything about charts. I'm not a chart guy, but I do like green candles, and so those make me feel good. What are you seeing as more of a charty guy?
Yeah. Well, I think we just talk about like the context of like this whole little cycle that was weird. And so we had, last fall kind of a pump into this Bitcoin ETF stuff. The ETF happened, and then we had like, right around there, really nice pump. Move up, it kind of like slowed down, and then we kind of had like, you're just going to make like flags and pendants and charts.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing.
So what's interesting is, I think anyone who looks at markets, anyone who's been in Bitcoin a long time is thinking like, hey, this summer is going to be flat, chop sideways, chop to down, nothing happening. And that ended up happening.
Mm.
It was sort of like, that was sort of the consensus as to what would happen. Then it had happened perfectly. I don't think anyone thought alts would go down as much as they did. And I think also people thought that certain altcoins would potentially have like, Solana or like different ecosystem coins might have really nice moments against Bitcoin.
Huge runs, yeah.
And that really hasn't happened during this time of chop.
Like last market we had, Pendle did, but that wasn't during the summer.
Yeah.
Pendle had this meteoric rise, like riding on the coattails of the points mania, because like the insider secret was that they were not trimming off. It was public, kind of. Like if you read the docs, you'd know this. They got a percentage of all the points that they were farming. And so they were building up this massive, airdrop war chest on the back end, and people were like betting on this huge treasury like windfall. But then Eigen dropped so many balls, and like that really hurt Pendle's price. But Pendle saw a meteoric rise, and that was pretty much Solana saw a pretty meteoric rise this cycle. But aside from that, I would say you're right. Discounting some meme coins.
Yeah. So I think that was surprising, but I think what everybody's excited about right now in the Bitcoin chart is, you see you had kind of that first drop in July that kind of set up where we are now, where that was all the Germans were selling their Bitcoin, and then everyone thought like, okay, that was the bottom. It pumped right back out, and then we had another bottom around 49 a few weeks later. And so what's exciting is after that 49, you can go to the next bottom, which is a 52. And it's sort of like the first lower high. And so like if Bitcoin right now trading around 63,000.
Wait, you mean higher low, this one, or lower?
A higher low. Like we've just had a higher low.
We just had a lower, right? Yeah. So we had a higher low and we had a lower high.
So now we need a higher high. And so like everyone's expecting like, everyone's looking at that breakout there now. We have a higher low. Then now.
Again, don't. I'm not a charter. Don't take any of this for like. Don't mock me.
The idea is if we get, start trading above like 66, especially like some daily candle closes and weekly candles above 66, then we have a higher low and we have a higher high. And that also is going directly into, October, which is like typically super bullish for crypto markets. It's been up only on the right time frames. So anyway, like I know why everybody's excited right now. I mean, it's like I'm probably like a little more timid. Like
no, what? You're the most bullish person that I know out there. You were like yesterday. You said this is the beginning of the bull market. Like this is day one.
I think it is because I think October's turbo bullish, and so like out of this structure, you have like a major breakout in October, and Bitcoin's trading above 74,000. Then I think that's just the signal to everyone that like it's on,
We did also get.
It hasn't happened yet, but like we're really close to some super bullish stuff.
I think so. I think you're right. Again, I'll give a million disclaimers. I'm not a chart guy, but I follow chart guys. I follow Groot, who's in the dojo. He's an amazing chart dude. He's just been like his batting average for macro market has been remarkable.
Yeah.
Also follow great. Keith. I like the dude, and he also says a lot of the same things. One of the favorite indicators of like all these people is like the EMAs, right?
Yeah.
Again, not my thing, but I listen to them. And so the green line, when the green squiggly goes over the purple squiggly, right? When the short EMA goes over the long EMA, that tends to be a bullish indicator. And when it does it on larger time frames, it like makes it a more reliable indicator. So here on the daily, we do have that cross, which is great. Love to see it. On the weekly, I'm pretty sure we're still kind of bearish, but we're catching up. So if you zoom in here, we went bearish for a little bit. We were bullish for a super long time, but we can just cross again. This happens like every now and again. So you can see like it stays bullish for a very long time. That's why it's such a reliable indicator. You can see once it flipped, it stayed flipped for super long. But every now and again, we get these, right? These little moments of like the market doesn't really know what it's doing. And I'm hoping that we're going to get a little moment of the market not knowing what it's doing, which is just like pre-election uncertainty. And then, Jay Powell just says, let's print. And we just skyrocket. Well, I mean, we could talk about that too, right?
Well,
yesterday.
I think we should talk about that. But I think more than charts, like this is about timing. So like if we were having this conversation 2 years ago, you would say like, hey, when does the bull market start? I would have said October 2024, and then I would have said I think it lasts and tops out in Q1 2026 because that's what past cycles have shown us. And I think everyone's still there. And so like I think anyone who's like super bearish is just like it doesn't make any sense. I think we probably ran up way too much because the ETF and all of that sort of like has to be digested in the market. But like I think we have a very bullish October, and if we don't, then it's time to go back to the drawing board and like change my mind. But it's more like when we are is what makes me bullish, not what the chart looks like. It just happens to be nice that like if the chart could also break out at the beginning of October, that would be even more bullish.
Well, I mean, these things tend to coalesce, but what the chart dudes say is that all of the narratives are baked into the chart. All the news is baked into the chart. So the chart is like an index of all externalities, because it's every single market participant's sentiment mixed together, which is kind of cool. Like, I know people say charting is the astrology for dudes, but I do also understand that it is literally like the chart is made up of indicators, but the chart itself is an indicator, right? It's the aggregate sum of all market positions.
Absolutely. I think it's just nice, like with charts, it just gives you something like
to look at, something to do.
It gives us something to do who are like in crypto all day and have nothing to do. No, it gives you like, I like to set levels and just be like, I'm bearish below here, I'm bullish above here, I'm neutral right here, just so that like I'm not making any stupid decisions.
Right.
It's like, for me, it's about like setting up rules so that I don't lose all of my money in one trade. And I'm just like risking, small percentages per trade.
Which is probably the best thing to do. I mean, everyone that has been in crypto long enough knows that if they don't have rules, their bets are much more binary, which is like, it's all or nothing. Either I win or I lose everything. And that's how you get kicked out of the market really fast. Because you overbet, you lose all your capital, you can't gain it back, you don't want to reinvest it back, so you quit. And I mean, we could talk about this. This is one of the things about DeFi and crypto is I call it the great filter, because many things have to be true for you to be in this space a long time. The first three things is like the profile of a DeFi user, which to me is highly intelligent, which I know, like, rubbing my own ego there. And there are a lot of degens in this space. You look at the left curve, right curve. I do think we're like a left curve, right curve space. But most people, I think, are highly intelligent in this space. So I'm talking about like 115 IQ plus, not necessarily like genius level, but 115, let's just say 145, I think is the average CT user. And then on top of that, you have to be competitive. Because if you're not a competitive person, you're just not going to make it. You're going to invest, you're going to lose, you're going to invest, you're going to lose. You have to have a drive to want to win and beat other people. So intelligent and competitive, like already a winning combination. And then heterodoxic. And I say heterodoxic because if you're orthodox, you're probably going to be in stocks. You're probably going to be investing in safer things. You're not going to be aping into meme coins. Also, you're going to be scared of like regulatory concerns. You're going to be scared of like the illegality of potential DeFi products. You're going to be so consumed by making sure you stick to the pre-existing structures and rules, you're just not going to be in DeFi. DeFi is just not going to be your niche or for you. So heterodoxic, intelligent, and competitive are like three filters already that exist for the DeFi space. And then on top of that, you have to have some level of capital. So there's some pre-existing success required. And it's hard to be successful. Some people are trust fund kids. I get that. But a lot of people aren't. And the longer you stay in this space, you'll realize like, oh, that's just, that dude went from zero to hero. And we have a lot of cases like that because they were just intelligent, competitive, and heterodoxic. And so that's like getting into DeFi in the first place. And then staying in this space, you have to maintain all these things, because if you don't, if you risk it all, so you're not particularly intelligent, your risk tolerance is kind of mixed up, either you pay the tuition, you learn not to do that again, or you can't afford the tuition and you're kicked out. And so people are constantly getting kicked out of the space because either they can't afford the tuition or they didn't learn. Let's say they could afford the tuition, but they didn't learn anything from it. Like you go to college, and you pass, like you pay for the college, but you didn't learn anything. Well, you're gonna have to take the class again, right? You're gonna have to get liquidated again. You're gonna have to, get rugged again. You're gonna have to do all these things again, and that gets really, really expensive, and that's another filter. So people who stay in DeFi, they're learning so much, they're paying so much tuition, they're becoming really, really skilled investors. And, I heard once that if you can make it in crypto, or if you can like tough it out in crypto, then TradFi is a walk in the park. It's like a piece of cake because it's so much less complex. It's so much less fast paced, and things tend to be more in accordance to reliable indicators, whereas we're in the Wild West. So that is a big rant, but I really do think that so many of these things are great filters, and we end up with a very fascinating demography in this, which is why I think, Trump, for whatever reason, is actually semi-interested in DeFi, and why we end up with people like Martin Shkreli, or, I mean, Andrew Tate comes from CT, which is crazy. He used to be like a CT influencer.
Yeah.
What's that guy from Shark Tank? There's two of them.
The owner of the Mavs?
Yeah.
Mark Cuban,
right? Mark Cuban got rugged, also got exploited in this space. Kevin O'Leary is crypto adjacent. So you have all these personalities who you wouldn't think would be in our very hyper niche, weird degen DeFi space, but they are because of the kind of people this place attracts. So I don't know. That's my mini rant. That could be totally.
I think you're right. And it's also like, I think another filter on top of that is people who go to conferences and people who don't. And so I know, like,
you would think that you go to like every conference available.
Well, I know, but I think there's really good reason to. And so, like, I don't know when I went to my first conference, like probably 2020. And it got to the point where I'd been in the space for a long time. Just been like following everything on Twitter, watching tons of YouTube, like just down the rabbit hole as far as I could go on my own. And then eventually, like, it came to a point where I sold some real estate, and I like actually had like a chunk of money that like I could invest that was like more significant than like, a few $100s a week or whatever. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go meet these people before I invest. I was like, I have no idea if this is like a scam. Like, I need to look somebody in the eye and shake their hand and like really get a sense of this industry and if this is real or not. And I ended up just like, you go to these places and you're surrounded by like thousands of other people who you already have something in common. So you have something to talk about immediately, and there's so much energy, and you're like talking to other people about projects, and it's so exciting that like, I just got hooked and never stopped going. But also, like, I never had anything to work on. I never like, I was just there for like vibes and fun and hang out with people and make friends. And that was the way to do it, and not show up and like be trying to sell something. There's no way to make friends when you have some sort of like agenda attached to it, or you're trying to like get someone to like talk about your stuff or whatever it is. But anyway, I think it's people in retail. I very much like still consider myself like on the side of like the retail investors and not doing like a bunch of VC stuff, just doing everything on chain. I think like if they would be much less angry and much less mad when projects go down if they would actually go and meet people and like have a face to the name and be like, oh, that's my buddy, like I know that they're doing the best they can, and like all markets are down and it's not their fault. Or just like any, and then I also think it would be really easy to like get a job in the industry. I mean, it's like I've had hundreds of people be like, dude, do you want to be on my team? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And none of those have ever been good fits because I'm too independent, I guess. But that's what people should be doing. Like, they should be like really going all in if they want to go all in, and showing up at conferences, talking to people, making friends in real life. And then those are people who end up starting projects or end up being the person to hire people for projects. And it's really easy way to like get your foot in the door and work in the industry and learn a lot more from the inside than it is just shit posting from the outside.
Well, there's a place for every archetype, right? This space has, what is it, like 3 major archetypes? It's the founder, the builder. No, I guess the biz dev could be in there, but the founder, the builder, and then like the KOL, right? The person who talks about it, the marketer, the influencer, whatever you want to say. And these are necessary things, because without the founder, we have no projects. Without the builder, we have no projects. And then without the marketer, or without the speaking person, no one knows about it and doesn't get boosted. So I think everyone has a place. And what you said about finding a job in this space, I'm of 2 months. Well, that's also like, I guess the fourth person, which everyone needs, is the LP, right? The liquidity provider, the money bags, like the person who actually has the capital.
Absolutely.
And so like at a conference, you'll find a mixture of all these things, and that's really kind of cool. And I like and enjoy that. I don't know. It's hard for it. Like, I'm of 2 months. One is, yes, if you want to be in the space long term, try to find a way to work in this space in whatever capacity it might be. The second is like, okay, that's not sustainable. It reminds me of college. So universities have one fatal flaw, or at least humanities do, which is almost everyone who gets an English degree wants to be an English professor. And there are more people graduating with English degrees than there are spaces available for English professors. And so even though you have this class of highly qualified individuals who are qualified to be English professors, you don't have enough demand for the supply. And so if everyone in crypto wants to work in crypto, there's just not enough spaces. There's not enough availability. And, I guess you could say, well, just spin up a new project, to spin up another fork of something. And you could do that. But like the longevity is just not there. And it also kind of gives this space kind of a weird name when we have that happen.
But the thing is like, of course, everybody can't work in the industry, but like the people who are motivated and are show up and are willing to work hard and have like decent personalities and aren't just like really weird and can like be kind and sit through a business meeting without saying anything inappropriate, like you have a massive leg up because there just aren't that many people involved, and there aren't that many people who are not working in the industry who don't show up to those types of events. So I actually think you have like, just by showing up, you have a huge advantage. It's different than like applying against 1,000 other like trained and reputable people. Like that just doesn't exist because the industry hasn't been around long enough.
No, if you do want to get a job in crypto or DeFi and you go to like going to conferences gives you a massive advantage, just an insane advantage. Meeting people in person is such a boon, or like is such a, I don't know, like this space is unique in that it is somehow still mostly free of the bureaucratic gunk that prevents people from just hiring people. Like if you want to go work at a company now, you effectively have to go through like an HR process, an interview process, multiple screenings, and all of these things are blockers from a managerial person or like a team just saying, oh, you know what, we like you, come on board. Whereas in crypto, you have a bunch of like, let's just say 20 to 40-year-olds saying, I just fell into a huge amount of money. We just raised a ton of cash. I've never run a company before. I have a marketing budget. I have an employee budget, and I want to build something cool. And so you have a lot of young folk flushed with cash, vibes driven, who want to spend that money on really cool people that they like. And this is perfect for those of us who are willing to go to conferences and like participate in the social aspect of DeFi, which makes the space really cool. Now, is it a better filter than, HR and tests and things like that? I'd like to think so. That's because I already believe there's that, very specific filter for people in this space already, which is intelligent, heterodoxic, and competitive. So like the next question, well, I want to jump to yields too for a second, but you know what? There's another question here, which is, I have argued with Mara about this almost ad nauseum, which is I think that DeFi is particularly meritocratic, and he doesn't like that position. What's your take?
Yeah, it's tough. I actually think it's tough in general to like make huge generalities like that, but I think I probably like agree with you just because I've going to conferences and meeting people, like that's been my experience. And so I think like hands on the ground, shaking hands, meeting people, doing that, like I sort of like, I think I'm leaning more towards your view than Mara's.
Like I can steelman his case. His case is that, there are exploiters out there, there are ruggers, there are people who have insider information, there are, just larger wallets can absorb more of an airdrop, all these kind of things. People have windfalls, there are trust fund kids, and all of these things make it less competitive. But fine. After we get past all that, I still think that people who are doing strategies, people who are looking at like smart contract risks, people who are like on CT all day for better or for worse, people who are in the Discords, people who are willing to go to conferences, people who are willing to talk to founders, just like send a DM on Telegram or send a DM on Discord, send a DM on Twitter, X, whatever you call it. All of these things are meritocratic ways to get ahead, or meritocratic ways to get information, or meritocratic ways to have an edge. And I do think that anyone can get an edge in this space, which is why I think it is particularly meritocratic, whereas a lot of other spaces and places are just less so. I'd say DeFi is relatively meritocratic. It's not like objectively meritocratic, well, the best will always rise to the top, but it's relatively meritocratic versus TradFi, relatively meritocratic versus just like your vanilla jobs.
Or starting a small business or something.
Right. Well, in the US. Starting a small business seems pretty meritocratic.
Yeah, I just mean like there's massive advantage if you already have advantage.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right? So like socially, maybe, it's one of the best reasons for going to college is like you make a bunch of friends and then hopefully one of the guys in the sorority starts a huge company so that you can get a good job.
One of the guys in the sorority? I mean, it is 2024. Totally possible.
In the fraternity or whatever. so that you can, so that you can get a good job one day. And so I think that makes sense a little bit. There is a lot of favoritism and different things in DeFi, but I totally agree with you. I mean, the opportunities are out there, and the opportunities are out there not just for the whales, because the whales aren't necessarily like getting into like all the small like degen sort of stuff that I'm into. There are more whales in your space in the ETH world, but there's opportunities all the time that are not being taken advantage of in the whales that anyone can get into. Yeah, just by doing research, meeting people, getting on CT, listening to us.
Well, let's talk about the dude in the sorority real quick. I'm not going to talk about gender politics, but I think that when people bash the level of meritocracy in the U.S., what they're doing is saying that meritocracies should only be by like academic standards and not by social intelligence or social ability or charisma, which I think is a wrong take, right? People who join fraternities, people who join sororities, I did not do any of that, but my roommate did in college. Curry, shout out to him. He's a great guy.
What's up, Curry?
Yeah, I think that they what they get is a high level of charisma and a high level of social intelligence and a high level of like go get 'em attitude, which to me is also merit. And when I see people like in positions of power, like, oh, it's just because of his race or just because he's a male or just because of this and that. I'm like, well, yeah, but he's also a really good speaker. He's really charismatic and he's pushy. And I talked to my Israeli buddy, and he's like, every company needs an Israeli because they're bullies. Like they will get things done. They'll bully people into like getting the right, getting whatever they want done. And I think that's true. To like, you need people who are pushy, and pushy people will get ahead. It's not like, you hate to say that like the bully gets promoted because you don't want, like, bullies are just the bad guy, right? In the American thought process. You think of the bully, you think of the kid like pushing down the weak person in school. It's not like a great image. But you also need bullies for the right thing. Like if the whole world is going the wrong direction, a bully pushing people back towards the right direction might be a good thing. That's totally off topic. But what I'm trying to say is I do think there's social meritocracy that is often discounted. Your ability to work with people, your ability to convince people, your ability to like help a company through your charisma and like your social intellect.
There's no doubt. I mean, I think it's worth so much more than just like general academic intelligence. I mean, like there's nothing better. Like going and meeting people, talking to people. Like if you have Riz and you're just like super cool, and
it's the Riz factor.
It's easy to talk to people. Then it's just it's extremely easy to get ahead at that point. I don't think there's any better skills to have. I mean, and if I could wish, I mean, we're both parents. Like if I could wish for skills for my kid, I would wish for them to be like personable, really good at working in teams.
Right. If I could like change their stats, like charisma, I'm gonna put that up.
Absolutely. Because, and if you think about like education moving forward or the skills of the future, where like all of the sort of like boring rogue memorization, math optimization, whatever you want to talk about, like physics, it's all going to be done by supercomputers. And so the people, what are the skills left that the people can have to put them ahead, right? And it's just Riz. It's just you meet people and they just like you, like you're electric.
What does that mean? Wait, it's all Riz?
It's always all Riz. Always has been. Yeah, like and the future is Riz.
Man, I would love to go on a tangent about like Aristotle's Rhetoric, because he wrote a book called Rhetoric. I mean, I don't know what it is in Greek.
What if he wrote a book called Riz?
I mean, someone should do a 2024 version of Aristotle's Rhetoric, and I completely agree. But it's always been the case that charisma, which is just like the art of rhetoric or dialectic, has been incredibly important. And one of the things that worries me about this particular truth is that we live in a democracy. And so he who has the Riz has the influence. And Riz is not necessarily directly correlated to intelligence or to ethicality. I mean, I think it often is, because, a virtuous person tends to have more Riz because you just like them more. But you can also fake Riz. Like you can kind of, if you study dialectics or if you study rhetoric, you can kind of like, cheat the system. And I think Trump does. Like my bias, Christian conservative. But I think Trump does game the system a little bit with rhetoric, because what he does is he speaks at roughly a third grade level. And I don't think that's because he's stupid. I don't think he'd be where he's at if he was that stupid. he probably does have an above average IQ. I think anyone at that level probably has an above average IQ, though CEOs, I think it's like 115 is the average there, so not like particularly high. He might just have like a lot of riz. So speaking to the center mass of the bell curve is going to get you the most support. Like if you're speaking to the 145s or 130s, or speaking to like the 80s and 90s, you're speaking to a smaller demographic. So everyone wants to appeal to that 100 IQ level, which is like the average. Actually, the US has a below 100 IQ average right now, which is really sad. But you want to appeal to like that. And so what is the average reading level of a 100 IQ? What is like the language level? And I think the left used to appeal to like the 115s. They used to speak a really highfalutin vocabulary. They used to try to use like complex arguments. And if you look at Kamala's speeches now, I think the left pivoted after Trump. She is very repetitive. She uses like very bland statements. She sometimes explains things as if she's talking to like what seems like a preschool class. And I don't think that's her. I don't think like she's particularly stupid. I don't think she's like unintellectual. I don't think she's inarticulate. I think she's probably a very highly intelligent person. She was a district attorney. Yes, she might have gotten that job, or her first job is because she was like given it from dating what's his face. All that's probably true. Nevertheless, she's also highly intelligent. You don't get and maintain those jobs for no reason.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm getting off track, but the idea here is that I worry that because people have realized they can game this system by speaking to like the lowest common denominator, which is around 100 IQ, that they're pushing they're infantilizing the average American to the point where like they're pushing the goalpost backwards. They're pushing us all down rather than like dragging us forward.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's like, the New York Times is always written at a third grade level, right? For that reason. You're trying to like, and then it's probably the opposite of what we're going to do on this podcast, but it's probably like the best thing to do from like a marketing perspective, right? It's just like, let's have a product that appeals to the largest possible amount of people, right? Right. Well, maybe that's what Biden was doing, and he's just faking being old,
Yeah, well, I'm also confident that that's what Bush did, because people were like, Bush is so dumb. I'm like, he went to Yale, like he was skull and bones. He's not dumb.
Yeah,
it's just not. And if you watch his interviews pre-presidency, totally different person, spoke in a completely different way. And if you watch him now, you'd say, oh wow, he actually wasn't that dumb. Because like his rhetoric compared to the current rhetoric was so much better.
Our last set of leaders have been so dumb, right? I mean, we had Obama, who was just like
Obama,
the most incredibly like beautiful articulations at every moment in life. Just the best speaker we've had in a long time.
Yep.
And then after that, it's just been a nightmare. Like I still can't like. So yeah, maybe Trump does like appeal to like many people, but like it's for me, I feel I just can't listen to it. I can't listen to long form. I tried to listen to Trump's interview with
Lex,
a couple weeks ago, and it's just like I can't get through it. Like it seems like he's intentionally. It seems like he doesn't listen to the question. He's not answering the question. He's just saying
that's
like,
what politicians do.
Yeah, his next talking point or whatever.
It's
I don't
shame.
Maybe we should say that like I'm not politically interested in like any way, and that I like will not be voting. And I voted for Obama the first time, I voted for Romney the second time, and haven't voted in forever. And try to pay very little. Well, like I have been paying attention to it. I think it's gonna be super interesting to pay attention to like in November and see what happens. But like I don't really have a dog in the fight. I don't think it affects like my life much. I don't think my vote matters. I live in Tennessee. It will be like Republican for like a very long time, most likely. We use electoral college. My individual vote probably doesn't matter. And like anyway, it's just how I am. I'm just not into it. I think politics is just poisonous. I think it's the wrong thing for our minds to focus on if we're trying to achieve like peace and happiness and accomplish things.
Well, there's this like idea that everyone worships something. Right. And if you like the etymology of worship and where it comes from, just like devoting attention and time, like you're literally sacrificing the most important thing that you have, which is your time to something. And so if you're willing to sacrifice your time to politics, like give them literally give them your life, because your time is your life, right? You only have a certain amount of that. And you're like saying, I am willing to give my life to this thing. Literally, you're not dying, but you're giving it. Then you're kind of worshiping it. And so politics is the stupidest thing to worship. And not the stupidest, but like it's going to drive you insane. It's going to drive you crazy because, yeah, I mean, everyone knows the state of politics. I could wax lyrical, but it would just bore everyone, right?
Yeah,
we know. And this is the thing with the Trump interview on Lex, right? It's like his first time running, I think he was like genuine Trump. Maybe he was speaking at a lower level because like he knows to do that appeal. But he wasn't dodging questions. He was willing to say whatever was on his mind, and people really resonated with that. This election, it just seems like he's turned into a politician. Like they have conditioned him to become one. So now he's not answering questions. He's giving spiels. He's just like hitting talking points, and it sucks because he's just like he's just another cog in the machine who people think is more heterodox.
Yep, I don't know,
but
man.
Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? I mean, he's bullish on crypto. That's what matters, right? So let's hope.
That's
number
huge,
goes
right? So like, yeah, I mean, I'm a single issue voter, I guess. I mean, like, I just want my kids to have more food and cool trips to go on and like an inheritance. So like, yeah, of course. I hope he wins. It's good for crypto. Hell yeah, that's great. I'm into it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
that's the only thing that could get me to the polls. There are
some other issues that I am actually passionate about, but let's save those for another time.
Yeah. We're going to talk about some yield, some crypto.
Let's talk about some yields.
So magical internet beans growing.
I know we have all this magical internet money. We should talk about it. So for those of you guys who are like listening to this, who will be missing out. There is a visual portion, but I'll do my best to be descriptive here on what's just like going on. Oh my gosh, 63 to 175. That's great. I mean, I guess I should have seen this earlier, but yeah, pump it up, buddy. 1 hour. Oh my gosh, I love this. All right, let's get. I wish ETH. ETH lags, right? That's it. I am almost a meme now in the DeFi dojo because I say that ETH lags so often.
Yeah, but it's not just. I mean, ETH has performed very poorly, but like if anyone's into any altcoin, like all that matters is the strength of Bitcoin in this market. You know, it's like Bitcoin does well, everything will follow. There's like absolutely zero doubt. So
speaking of Bitcoin. There is this narrative right now, BTCFi, which is it's almost a scary shift because I feel like everyone was so hyper focused on ETH yields for such a long time because ETH was like the thing to be in. I love the super OETH play, by the way. But now Bitcoin is really getting a lot of attention in EVM land, which is like it seems probably bearish for ETH because now everyone can just invest in Bitcoin on Ethereum mainnet, but we'll see what happens. So like you have Coinbase ETH, you have TBTC, which I actually really like. This is Threshold, that's from Wormhole. You have LBTC, which is one of the Babylon BTCs, and then you have like all of these BTC derivatives popping up. Foreign BTC, which I like a lot, which is kind of like just it's similar to Zirkit. Yeah, it's similar to Zirkit where like it's just LBTC, but it happens to also be getting corn points, and corn's going to be like a bearer chain, I think, fork. Anywho, because of all of these BTC derivatives on Pendle, you have 9% fixed rate, fixed date APR on Solve BTC deposited into corn. So it's like Solve BTC from Solve Finance that is also getting corn points, similar to all the Zirkit ones from the past. You also have LBTC deposited into corn, so Lombard BTC, which is getting 8.65%. And these are 97 days out. So that's like, almost, what is that? Nearly more than a quarter of a year, almost a third of a year, that you're getting 10% fixed rate. Now, if you guys know me, I want to leverage that. I want to loop that. I want to like see how much I can get out of that because the base rate yield for BTC historically has been around 50 bips to 150 bips. Like it's been crazy low. And so if you can borrow, wrap Bitcoin, if you can borrow, well, that's really the big one. There's been nothing else competitive for a while, but CBBTC, I think is going to take over wrap Bitcoin in the next few quarters. So if you could borrow one of those against a 9% fixed rate, fixed day at less than 5%, that means you're getting a 4% bonus per leverage. So if your leverage, let's just say 5x, that's 5 times 4 is 20. 20 plus 9 is 29% on Bitcoin. Unheard of, right? Unheard of. In the past year, BTC has outperformed ETH by roughly 38%, or annualized. So like 29%, but if you annualize it, it's 38%. So if So the argument has always been, if you can get over 40% APR, over 25% APR, whatever it has been on ETH, that is the better play because there's never any yield on Bitcoin. But now that you can get yield on Bitcoin, I think this changes the entire dynamic. And so I'm worried for ETH in that regard, but also I'm super excited for just BTC composability on chain, even though it's not like real BTC. So speaking of leverage, let me just quickly dive into this. You can leverage these things on ZeroL. Granted, there's no liquidity left, but there was a lot of liquidity before. And so on ZeroL, which is a true Aave v2 fork, actually it might be an Aave v3 fork. Let's see, can you do, I think it is the Aave v3. So it's a true Aave fork, which is the good thing. Maybe you don't like the risk profile, but you know, I tend to be okay with Aave forks because they're immutable smart contracts, and it really matters like the initial conditions of the fork, not the later conditions. But anyhow, invest at your own risk. A lot of people don't like ZeroL. That's totally fine. They do have these PTs for eBTC and LBBTC where you can borrow against them. So, you know, they're getting 7% to 9% fixed rate, fixed date, and you can borrow wrap Bitcoin, you can borrow Lombard Bitcoin, you can borrow EtherFi BTC, and all of these things have, well, Lombard doesn't, but wrap Bitcoin, EtherFi Bitcoin, and even Coinbase Bitcoin all have below 5% borrow cost. So you're getting that nice arbitrage. So I think right now, like there's a great chance to get some good yields on Bitcoin. I'm following those. You can automatically leverage them on Contango. You know, right now I'm staring at yields going from 67% with like 8 Bitcoin principal space all the way to, let's just say, 56% with 8 Bitcoin of space. But go ahead.
Yeah, let me double click on something you said. You said that Coinbase BTC will, do you think in the next couple quarters be the biggest BTC derivative?
I do. I mean, wrap Bitcoin is like changing their custodial issues. And go ahead.
Well, for sure, but like, why wouldn't like Lido or something step up and like why? It seems like
they just
Coinbase ETH was unable to like gain traction as much as like Lido or something else ETH, or even some of the other ETHs. So like, what makes you think that Bitcoin will be like CBBTC will be any better?
Yeah,
it seems like, you know, with Lido starting to do like Symbiotic, and Symbiotic trying to pair with like Babylon and a bunch of these other like BTC sidechain things. I don't know. It seems like they would be like a much bigger player in the space compared to Coinbase, but I could be wrong. So I was just wondering, like, what makes you
give me some pushback on that? So my thesis is that Lido is not going to do Bitcoin. There's no reason to. There's no staking yield. There's nothing to gain. I think that, and this isn't my original opinion, that Coinbase is willing to take the loss because they're not going to make money off of having a Bitcoin derivative. It's not a particular, like, they're not taking any of the staking yield. There's no intrinsic interest coming from it. They're just saying, we will custody your Bitcoin and give you a derivative version and then just try to make it super composable so you're using it to boost base chain or to boost DeFi or to boost whatever else. And so if they're willing to take on that you know, custodial risk, I think that they're the best ones to do it. It's Coinbase, it's Circle. Like, please take that custodial risk. I don't want anyone else to do it.
Right.
To push CBBTC into DeFi and also give you an easy off ramp from, you know, BTC DeFi on EVM chains back into native BTC, then they're just going to have a massive advantage. And no one else is doing that. And like, okay, you say Lido is moving into Symbiotic, fine, but those Symbiotic points are only going to last a season. So Lido doesn't really have any incentive to do this. It's not a winning trade. Like, they could lock up $2 billion of BTC for what? Why? Right? What are they making off of that? I mean, maybe TVL. That's a decent argument. They're getting TVL, and that TVL might boost their token price. But if they want to incentivize that, they're burning through incentives and like diluting their incentives on other things they might want to be working on. So I think that CBBTC has a good chance. It doesn't really have many competitors. Wrap Bitcoin right now is getting a lot of FUD. And it is the only, well, I mean, there's also BTCB, which I do like. BTCB is pretty good. Also pretty easy to off-ramp into native BTC.
What's BTCB? Binance?
No, I mean, there is a Binance BTCB. But there's also BTCB. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name of it. It first came out in AVAX, but now I think it's on a few other EVM chains.
Okay,
pretty good, pretty liquid.
No,
right. Yeah, and easy to off ramp. So I like that. But it didn't really catch on, didn't get a lot of composability, and wasn't heavily incentivized. So I do think like that is its pain point. But also, like the one that did try to do the composability push was TBTC, Threshold. And they incentivized with a lot of their, like, I think it's just the T token. And they kind of were gaining traction, but then this huge wave of like BTC restaking and then Coinbase BTC sort of came along. And I think that's sort of taken attention away from TBTC. And I'm pretty sure the TBTC is not going to be able to compete with CBBTC because they're both non-yield bearing versions of Bitcoin. And I just think that if Coinbase wants CBBTC to win, it will. Now, here's why they would want that.
It's super interesting, like just watching BTCFi like come into fruition and like watch it start happening. Like, you know, I mean, like in Denver this year, like it's all anybody talked about. You know, all the side conferences were like about like BTCFi and BTC and DeFi. So yeah, I think there's tons of people coming in, tons of people trying it, and it's just going to be fun to watch to see like how it all shakes out, who gets the most TVO. It's really interesting.
I want them to compete for yields. I want to go back into Lido versus Stater days. So Stater, maybe it's a small little baby LST project now, but during the bear market, it was Lido versus Stater, and Lido was incentivizing everything on every chain with just a ridiculous amount of money, and Stater was trying to keep up. And Stater technically was the #1 liquid restaking project for most chains that weren't ETH. And so I want to see those battles again, right? I want to see curve wars. I want to see people fighting for hegemony for their BTC derivative, because that means higher yields for all of us. Right now, most of that fighting is taking place in the points arena, and I think that's kind of winding down, right? I mean, EtherFi is going into their quote-unquote forever season, which is kind of a bummer. Renzo, I think Renzo's probably going to move into like hard emissions, so res tokens, which is going to be harsh on their token. Eigenlayer seems to be also kind of doing this rolling season thing, which is like giving them a base assumed APR of 1%, but they're going to be emitting those on like, I think it's a bi-weekly or bi-monthly basis. So that's kind of cool. It's not really like far in the future anticipated airdrops. So I want to see that kind of competitiveness, but with actual tokens again. That would be awesome. And so we'll see. In terms of LPs though, like we need liquidity for these things. I haven't seen a gigantic liquidity push for CBBTC or any of these other derivatives. I'd like to see that. One thing I have seen, though, is, you can see my own positions here. Aerodrome is weird. I know that, who is the congressperson? Do you know the congressperson that Mike something, who like invested into Velodrome and Aerodrome?
No, I haven't heard that.
Mike Collins, I think his name is. Yeah, it was in the DeFi news because it was like, why is this congressperson just like aping into Velo and Aero? And I was like, well, you know what? Please do it. So Aerodrome is on base chain, and if you sort by volume, check that out. Like here, can you see that number? Read that number out loud.
156 million.
156 million of volume on a single pair on WETH USDC. Now, that's more volume. I'm gonna make a statement here, and I could be wrong, but that's more volume than every other WETH USDC pair in DeFi combined. Why is there that much volume on base chain on Aerodrome? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I know we can benefit from it. There's $20 million of liquidity, right? So $20 million of liquidity, $156 million of volume. I'm going to show you some quick math. This is actually really fun math, just to show you sort of like how you can see what the average APR is here. I know I built a bunch of tools here, but one of them, we have, what was it, 156 million? 156 million.
Yeah, 156 million.
Now you take that number, the volume, and you multiply it by the fee tier. The fee tier here is 4 bips, and that'll tell you how much money in fees was made that day. Multiply that by 365. That's how much money you would get over a year. You divide that by the TVL, which is 20 million, and you get the average APR. So the average APR for this pair is 113%. Now, granted, right, there's impermanent loss. It's USDC ETH. But if the impermanent loss is smaller than the implied volatility, it is still a beneficial play. So I've been in this. Probably for like the past week and a half now, still in range the entire time. I have like a 10% plus or minus spread, and I've been loving it. You know, I've just been raking in those arrow rewards. So I think that we are seeing an influx in volume, which I like because volume means yield. But there are some secret pairs here. So, you stuck around for the alpha. Congratulations. There is this 5 BIP feature with CBBTC, which is getting a lot of yield from arrow fees. Now, these arrow fees, like you're not going to get this 360% APR. You're not, because they're advertising the single BIP. You're never going to do single BIP liquidity. That's insane. You'll never stay in range. But even if you're in a plus or minus 2%, because you think that CB, or you think that ETH and BTC have a small delta, you'll still do pretty good. So new deposit, sure, automated price range, why not? Ooh, what is this? Mello? So Mello is doing automated liquidity management? That's kind of cool. So it's a vault. They have a vault. I didn't know that. ZeroL apparently has a vault that'll automatically run liquidity through Mello. Why Mello? This is not a Mello pair. But okay, so if you did a narrow range, which is plus or minus 3% volatility, 63% plus or minus 8%, you're getting 23%. All of these are great yields on ETH BTC, in my opinion. If you want to be exposed to both. So a lot of cool stuff happening on Aerodrome. A lot of great deals on Contango. I love Contango. By the way, if you ever want to leverage something, you can use perps. But with perps, if you're long, you're almost always paying money. And if you're short, you're always making money. Every once in a while, money markets will do an incentive package. And so you can just open up long and short positions through Contango. Right now, if you're opening up a long position on ETH on Contango, you can get paid 6% at 2x leverage. If you're at 3x leverage, you can get paid, 13 minus 6, so 7% roughly, to have a long position. You can't do that on perps. You're going to be paying money to be long on ETH for perps. So I think, there are a lot of cool ways to squeeze out yield here and squeeze out yield there and to make the most intelligent play. And you gotta be aware of those things.
Absolutely.
I've nerded out about yield. There's so many more yields I could talk about, but I don't want to go too crazy with it.
Did you bring up the chakra pool?
I'm bringing it up now. I have no idea what chakra is. Can you explain this to me I'm a toddler?
My yield. Yeah. Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Exactly.
Every time I'm ever on a call with the tech guys, I'm like, dude, you got to slow down. Explain this to me like I'm 5, please.
Oh, that you showed this to Mara before.
Yeah. This has been my favorite yield of the last couple months. So a little background, I came back from ECC Brussels, and my biggest takeaway that when I was telling everybody about it in the dojo was Mantra. Mantra's about to blow up. And so Mantra is a project that's been around for a long time, but they are pivoting and launching their own Cosmos SDK chain. And DeFi Dojo will be validator, so that's super exciting. So this is, the big 3 for RWAs was always Ondo, Pendle, I guess, is RWA sort of. And then
Maker Die.
And so but in the top, so the only 2 projects that are in the top 100 are Mantra and Ondo. Ondo's been sort of the RWA that everyone has picked to be the big winner, and everybody's been talking about for the last year. They have some sort of partnerships with BlackRock or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know the full deal. So anyway, I came back from ECC Brussels, and I was I got to do a deep dive into Mantra. And then about 6 weeks ago, they opened up this pool. And so you're depositing USDC. They are converting it to USDY, and then you're earning the native yield for USDY is 5%. Because you're getting it's backed by real world assets, and so that's how you're earning that yield. There is the profit from those, and then on top of that, they're giving you Ondo and Mantra tokens at percent. So when I first got into the pool, I thought it was 6,000% or something, and as the TVL went up, the APR went down. But the Mantra token recently has been skyrocketing, and now it's crossed Ondo, and now Mantra is the number 1 RWA project as far as market cap. And so as that price goes up, that APR goes up, and so there's 6 million in TVL and still almost 600% APR. So the big risk here, and what Mara didn't and some of the guys in the dojo, was there is no end to this. You only get your tokens when they launch their new mainnet chain, right?
Yeah, I knew it was a catch. I was like,
That's the catch.
What is
but,
the catch?
So
yeah,
when I got into the pool, there was that catch. Now there is no catch. They have said we are 100% for sure launching in October. And so you can just take that last day in October and do any calculations you want. I have talked to the founder, JP. They're 100% launching in October, and they just like announced it all on their socials. Like, I'm because we're running a validator as well. Like, I'm talking to the team. I'm very confident that they will launch in October. I mean, I could see like, of course, like if Bitcoin went to 12 grand, right, or something. I mean, you could think of a scenario where like all teams are like, hey, let's pause and go back to the drawing board for a minute. But unless something major happens, they're launching in October, and it was really nice to use stable coins to get exposure to Mantra without having to like buy the tokens.
Right, and that's one way of thinking about it. Just like if you want to get exposure to Mantra, just chuck in some stable coins. You're getting a base rate of 5%, so it's kind of a quote unquote risk-free yield because it's backed by treasury bills. I imagine you're looking at 5.35. That's a treasury.
It's actually backed by real estate in Dubai.
You should have mentioned that too. That I mean, cool. Right, cool.
As well as other things, but like I think that's their big thing, and like some of the things they're announcing. So like that
makes
does
me
make
scared,
it a little
though, because it's novel.
It's scary.
Anything novel is terrifying.
And in Dubai, sometimes they build their resorts on fake islands that they make, and so.
Well, I'm fine with that. Go ahead and build your resort on a fake island. If that island crashes, who cares?
The ocean.
Right. Well, they'll just pull it out. The issue isn't that. It's like, for me, it's always regulatory risk. So as far as I understand, I mean, this is just like rumors, but in Dubai, it's like, if they want crypto to be good, it's good. If they want crypto to be bad, it's bad. And it's like unilateral. There's no checks and balances to that system. It's the king, right? I forget his name. He's been called like the wisest man on earth. He gives counsel to a lot of people. Kind of cool, like the modern day King Solomon. But if I understand correctly, he has like unilateral ability. He's like an actual king. We have a lot of monarchs in the world that are, just figureheads. He's an actual king, and he can just say crypto good or crypto bad, and then all of a sudden things either work or they don't work. If this was sufficiently decentralized, I'd be like fine with it. But to me, that is a big risk. So the APR, phenomenal, fantastic. You're getting 500%. Maybe you can realize that in a month. It's kind of like an airdrop with a really good implied yield. And then after that, we'll see what the actual yield looks like after the token and TG happens. For the October date, I just, as a rule of thumb, say push it by a month. So they say October, I'm going to say November. But it's still really good. So I like it. I'm hopeful for it. But the exposure to Dubai real estate terrifies me.
Well, I think that like those are things that could like play out far in advance over time. But I think like as far as like this is probably like the top narrative for this cycle, I would say, as far as like looking out on CT. I think RWA, top 1, 2, definitely top 3 narratives for this cycle. So if we do go into like really bullish times and you can get exposure to that narrative and just like short-term price action, potentially over like the next 12 months, then I think that's the play. I'm not saying like invest in Dubai real estate and stay in it for the next like 25 years. But I think this is like a good 30, 60 day, 90 day. If you're super bullish RWAs, then like, maybe 12 months max sort of play.
I will say I am super bullish RWAs, and your USDY does remind me of the other USDY by, oh my gosh, this company, Avail, I think is the name of the company that does, they back all of their stable coins by credit markets, credit bonds, bond market, whatever those things are called. Like, debt to, or like buying the debt of large companies, which can average between like 7 to 15% depending on your risk profile. And I like that specifically because it's not dependent upon T-bills, which are going down. So, T-bills are going down because we're finally seeing some quantitative easing with rate cuts. And so if you combine those two things, right, then you'll see that most of these RWA assets, not this one, so that's cool, but most of these RWA, like SDI and even Ondo, are going to go down. Like their base rate yield's going to go down. Which is good for a lot of other things, right? Hopefully more money into the markets. But this other USDY, I think it's from Avail. I could be wrong on that. I'll have to get their actual name. Because it's based by credit markets, it's kind of immune to those to an extent. So RWAs, love to see them. Love to see novel types on chain. Very excited about Mantra, but do just be mindful that real estate-backed stablecoins have had struggles in the past.
I do not think it's the type of thing you want to be in a horrific bear market or like huge,
even a raging bull market.
Right. Yeah, huge market crash.
Yeah.
But I like it. It's my favorite. Been crushing.
Well, I'll take that as a vote of confidence. So we have gone for an entire hour, which is astounding, amazing for our very first. Hopefully you liked it. If you didn't, let us know why. This is the very first one. It's a trial. Tell us what was interesting, what was not. Leave some comments, give us some feedback, and we'll make it better. So, 1% better every day. If you compound interest that, we're 1,000 times better by the end of the week. That's what we're going for. Yeah, that math works, right? So anyways, thank you guys so much for listening, for watching, for, leaving some comments down below. And, none of this is financial advice. Have a wonderful rest of your day.